Rutgers basketball losing at Wisconsin on Thursday night, 77-66. Had a 47-40 lead with 14 plus minutes to play, and everything changed, just fell apart. Gave up a game-killing 19-2 run. This is, I'll be honest, this is the most ticked off I've been watching them all season. This game to me was, I mean, they were up to that point. They were impressive. They gave up a big run in the first half, and they had a 9-point lead and went to the halftime down two. But I really liked the way they were playing. They were sharing the basketball well. They were being smart, and then all of a sudden it went away. And they were terrible with the basketball all night. 18 turnovers. They had 10 turnovers in the first half. That's really what kept Wisconsin in the game. And then they had 8 second-half turnovers. I mean, in terms of points off of them, there wasn't a huge advantage with Wisconsin. I think even Rutgers had an edge there in points over turnovers. They scored 19 points off of 13 Wisconsin turnovers. Wisconsin scored 18 off of 18 Rutgers turnovers. But even when Wisconsin wasn't able to score off of them, they had no flow. It totally disrupted momentum and ability to counter with runs of their own. And they just got increasingly sloppy. They were physically out of control at times. I mean, multiple players were just like literally running guys over. They were losing the basketball in just weird ways. They were sped up in a way that was just not positive. It wasn't like plain hard sped up. It was like just completely out of control and disjointed and not basketball moves. It was they were just flying all around wildly. And, I mean, listen, they lacked a ton of discipline down the stretch. They just they abandoned sharing the basketball. They became unglued on the defensive end. That play that encapsulated the breakdowns was 6 offensive rebounds in one possession. Stephen Crowell just completely dominated Rutgers, at that stage of the game. And this is a team that Rutgers physically overwhelmed at the rack, a month ago, 6 weeks ago, whatever it was. And, they got flipped tonight. Obviously the fouls were piling up. Rutgers got into some foul trouble in the first half. That hurt them. And they immediately got into foul trouble in the second half. At one point it was 14-3, but I mean, Rutgers they were legitimately fouling because they settled down after that and they were defending without fouling. And then all of a sudden, the waves came crashing in and they were just off balance. They could not stop Wisconsin. Wisconsin was really working the basketball well. Rutgers was forcing shots on the offensive end and it completely unraveled. And it's very frustrating. It was a disheartening loss. This, for me, was as disheartening of a loss as I've seen all season. Maybe that's weird. I don't know, because they've had, several. And, there's been a lack of competitiveness down at the end of certain games. The Maryland game, the Penn State game, those were frustrating games at home. But, again, this was a team that they beat by a wide margin at home, that they were beating on the road. Yes, it was senior night. It was a place they've won 2 in a row. And I've said it all along. I thought they matched up well with Wisconsin. And, it just seemed like this team, I don't know if it's a lack of effort. I think it's a lack of discipline and a lack of decision-making that leads to sloppy play. And, ultimately it leads to a lack of effort in the sense of they're not able to play hard or outwill their opponents because they're just making so many mistakes. I don't think it's a lack of caring effort-wise. I think it's just they just kind of discombobulate and they can't control themselves and they can't gather themselves enough to physically match and outmatch their opponents. And that just was on full display for me tonight in terms of how I looked at it. Extremely frustrating. It's been a frustrating season, and to see them lose this game the way they did, listen, they were 9.5 point underdogs. I said in my preview I wasn't expecting them to win, but I thought that they had a good shot if they played disciplined. In terms of not turn, they couldn't turn the basketball over. We knew they had to turn Wisconsin over. We knew they had to get offensive rebounds. In terms of rebounding, Wisconsin dominated them in the second half. It was, 39-31 total, so -8 turnover rebounding margin. Offensive rebounds, Wisconsin 13-8. Again, Rutgers outscored them 10-9 in second chance points. They got outscored by 10 points in the paint. And it was just the turnovers were a killer. Rutgers, 13-3 in fast break points. We knew that was a key coming in. I mentioned that in the preview, but they weren't able to get enough of it consistently. They started well from three. They were 4 of 9 in the first half, just 3 of 12 in the second half. Shot 45. Both teams shot 45% in the game. Big difference was Wisconsin was 9-19 from three, so they were +6 from 3-point range. They were +6 from the free throw line. Wisconsin did not have one of their better days up from the free throw line, but they were 15-23. Rutgers 9 of 15. I thought, like I said, Crowell killed him inside. He had 17 and 11. McGee came out of nowhere. His first game in like 6 weeks. He had 11 points, 5 of 5 shooting. He averages 1.5 points a game. Blackwell had 17 points, 9 of 10 from the free throw line, 8 rebounds. I memean, Wisconsin just had so many big performances tonight. AJ Storr, as we expect, 19 points, 8 of 15 shooting. But, you had a couple bench guys that just really outperformed Rutgers in a big way tonight, which really was a huge difference in the game. Just in terms of looking at stats for Rutgers, again, listen, the one encouraging thing was Gavin Griffiths tonight and also JaMychal Davis. And I thought he was going to have a good game. I talked about that in the preview. In terms of JaMychal Davis, he was the only player to finish, in the positive and plus minus. He was +5, 10 points, 3 of 6 shooting. Listen, he's not a good free throw shooter. He was 3 of 6, but he had 6 rebounds, 3 steals, an assist, 0 turnovers. He is the only starter to not have a turnover. He's the only player. Gavin Griffiths and JaMychal Davis were the only guys to get significant minutes tonight that did not have a turnover. Gavin Griffiths, 14 points, 5 of 12 shooting, 4 of 9 from 3. He had 3 rebounds, 2 assists, a block, and a steal in 24 minutes. He looked the part tonight. He looked confident. He had an edge out there. Physically, he's just holding himself. He's carrying himself a lot stronger. He took better shots in rhythm. And you can start to see the potential there. You really can. And listen, if anything you could take away from the way things are unraveling right now, Gavin Griffiths and JaMychal Davis, as freshmen, are playing with poise. Listen, they're going to make mistakes, but they're improving. They're improving, and that is important. I will say, I'm going to be a little critical of Jeremiah Williams here. He had 16 points. He was 6-11 from the floor. He lost control down the stretch. 5 turnovers. He only had one assist tonight. He's definitely he's trying to do too much. It was just too. He was more guilty than anyone in terms of dribble. He even got called on the shot clock ran out where he couldn't even get a shot off, and he was just caught dribbling for like the final 10 seconds of the shot clock. Listen, I mean, he's been amazing. I really like him. I don't think he's been an unselfish player throughout his career. He was unselfish at the start of his return. I think he's just trying to do too much and take matters into his own hands too much. He's got to get his teammates more involved. He's got to set his teammates up more. They were finding Cliff, most of the game. And then when that run started for Wisconsin, he kind of disappeared. He only had 7 points, but it felt like he was, when they were getting him baskets, they were finding him in space Cliff had good position down low, deep to the basket, only had 5 rebounds. I mean, let's see. JaMychal Davis, 6'1" freshman guard, led them with 6 rebounds. That's a problem. Derek Simpson started pretty well shooting wise, but listen, he had 4 turnovers. Jeremiah had 5. Austin Williams had 4. That's 13 turnovers from 3 of your guards. That's just that's really rough. Rutgers was. I was a little surprised Steve Peichel didn't go to the press earlier in the game. It was really effective. I mean, listen, they were down with 19. They lost by 11 or 12, and the press was working. I'm surprised they didn't go to it earlier. I hate to say it, but you felt like the soul of the team just disappear the way they played down the stretch. It was disheartening, And listen, I like these players. They've represented the program well off the court, academically, on the court. I mean, listen, they work hard. It's not working down the stretch of the season. And it's upsetting to see, because at times when this team plays together, and they're connected, they can hang with anybody. It's when they just completely unravel like this, it just gets really ugly, and it's really frustrating to see them completely collapse. It'd be one thing, I think, honestly, if they stuck together, they were able to be competitive and play hard. It would be easier to take. The lack of discipline that's out there right now, and it's very uncommon for a Steve Peichel team. I know there's questions. It just seems like the players are just not on the same page. Again, I've talked about how difficult this period is now, where once their NCAA tournament chances evaporated, it's a lot to manage, just in terms of how the players' mentality are now, individually, as a team. Are they looking ahead to what their plans are for next year? How many players are going to be back? I've seen a lot of theories, and how many players Rutgers going to target in the portal. Listen, I don't think anything. I don't think anyone that predicts or says anything right now, I don't think you can. I don't think we know what's going to happen. Nothing would surprise me in terms of who leaves. And I'm not saying there's going to be a mass exodus, or even that there should be. All I'm saying is, in this, modern time, this is different. Like, things have changed rapidly, and it's all about maximizing your value, right? And people may hate that. It's a capitalistic world, and money's ruining college, but whatever. Like, right? I mean, in life, everyone, right? You try to maximize your own value. So why should college basketball be any different? And that's just the reality of what the transfer portal now is. There's no transfer limitations in terms of 2-time transfer anymore. So buckle up. It's going to be a bumpy offseason. I think it's going to be a good offseason. I'm excited about it. But I'm also, I'm not ready to move on from this team. I want to see this team, take advantage of the opportunity that's still in front of them. And, there's some guys finishing out their careers now. And there's some guys that, are going to evaluate their options at the end of the year. And it's a weird time. It's a weird place where this team is right now. I hope that they can, pull it together for Sunday at Ohio State at home, senior day. 8 seniors going to be honored, including 2 walk-ons. I'll have plenty more. But yeah, this game really ticked me off. I was really disappointed with how they unraveled. And because it was just, honestly, it wasn't smart basketball. It wasn't good basketball. And it was extremely frustrating, as frustrated as I've been all season. And they actually shot better tonight than they have, but they just made some really poor decisions. They didn't play as one. They didn't play for each other. There was just too much hero ball at the end, and too many defensive breakdowns. And that's not what's going to win you basketball games. That's not what this program has been about. And that was really tough to watch down the stretch. Thanks so much for watching my rapid reaction once again here at the Scarlet Faithful.